Welcome back into TF. We're in the fire safety, fire update, fire. You shouldn't probably say fire. It is Mark Malekis from the Fitchburg Fire Department. So all this year I'm working on new intros, and so I'm trying all these new things out. That is not the way to do fire update.
How's that working for you?
Well, if I do it consistently, like every single episode that we've taped this year, everybody's like, yeah, what are you doing, Jeremy? So I'm just keeping it consistent all the way through.
I like it.
Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, you too.
So glad you're here. We're going to actually take a look back into 2024. Got some exciting news here that Mark is presenting me with, and then we'll kind of preview 2025 here coming up.
Sure.
But just starting with the latest reports, looking back here into November, December, the fire department still it's an active time of year for a lot of reasons during the holidays. I suspect that the weather, somewhat generally speaking, plays a role. Although we haven't really had too much bad weather, but you've told us in the past that holidays do bring on more fires and more potential for calls.
They do. Everything from illness related, because everybody's cooped up in the house and there's sickness. Right now the norovirus is going around, so the more people are together, the more likely they are to get sick, and we're out there with Fitchburg EMS trying to help them out. The wintertime's typically a season uptick in fires. People are using heating elements in their house, whether it's space heaters or whatever it is. Misuse of that stuff gets people in trouble, so we have those calls. It's just generally a busy time of year, plus we're all trying to use our vacation, and schedules are crazy, so it's a great time of year, but I'm glad to bump into 2025 and get moving with the next year.
Yeah, and I guess is structure fire marked here in November that there were only 2 in December, same deal? Like, was there actually, I know there was a recent fire, but.
So we did have a fire over on Thurston Lane, and all the residents of that building were displaced. The fire itself was relatively well contained, but it unfortunately affected the electrical system of the building, which affects the residents' ability to go home. So, and with that, I have to give a shout out to my building inspection partners. Our building inspection department is awesome. But those guys have been right there with me, working through what started the fire, how did it start, all of those problems. And then they're right there with the property owner trying to get the building rehabbed so people can move back in.
Fantastic. Well, appreciate all the work it's a team effort always, no matter what it is. So certainly that's good. I'm looking at some statistics here as it comes to one of your big roles in the fire department and inspections, and a startling number here. In 2023, you guys ran 434 fire alarm calls, which we'll ask you what are fire alarm calls. Mm-hmm. But in 2024, you ran 278. That's a substantial reduction.
Yeah.
At 36% reduction. First off, what are we talking about here when we're talking about fire alarm calls?
So fire alarms are when we go out for whatever reason that there's a fire alarm in a building and it goes off. There's different ways a fire alarm can go off. It can go off because it's working appropriately, right? Somebody burns food in their apartment. It gets out into the smoke detectors in the hallways, sets off the alarm, and we respond. It can go off sometimes because the fire alarm system hasn't been maintained properly. Generally speaking, if they're being maintained, they're working the way they should, but maintenance is a big problem. So if it's not being maintained, then we get more false alarms. That's bad for everybody, right? We're running more calls. People are getting sort of accustomed to hearing the fire alarm, and we don't really want that. So to have a reduction in fire alarms, that's a really big deal in my world, in the prevention world. And I have to attribute all of that work to our crews who are going out and doing fire inspections. They're being diligent. They're working with the owners. They're getting things done. They're following up. They're doing awesome. And the numbers show it.
substantial. I mean, the reduction here is substantial, and you still have 166 open violations. What do violations consist of?
So a violation is, so we follow the Wisconsin State Fire Code, comes out of NFPA. That can run anywhere from, a system malfunction or maintenance that's needed. It can be exit lights that are out. It can be fire extinguishers that haven't been recharged. Those are just some of the big hits. And what we do when we walk through with a fire inspection is take a look at all of that, let the occupant or owner know, hey, this needs to be corrected. And then we give them a time period to get that corrected. We don't necessarily just write a ticket on the spot like people think. We work with them. Sometimes it's a bigger fix and it takes more time. Sometimes it's something that they just forgot. Whatever the case may be, we track those so that we can get those violations resolved so that we can move on.
People are probably surprised hearing that crews are out there doing fire inspections. They might not think the fire, they see the fire truck around, maybe with the lights and sirens on, maybe not, going around. They're like, maybe I see him at the grocery store, maybe I see him doing all these different things, but they're responsible for a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and every day they're out. And each crew has sort of their own territory. They build relationships out there, and they work through this stuff with their occupancies. It's a fantastic way for the firefighters, especially the newer ones, to get out into the buildings. While they're doing their fire inspections, they get to walk through, they get to see the layout, they get to learn where the features of the building are. And at 3:30 in the morning, when you're going into a building for whatever the problem may be, it's really helpful to know your way around already, to be familiar with that structure. So there's a tactical element to the inspections as well.
It's pretty incredible, and these are real-time numbers, which is really nice. We've heard, because you've told us in previous interviews, you really follow the data pretty heavily, and when you see something like this and then can attribute it to less calls, based on the work, based on the number of visits and whatnot, it's incredible.
Yeah, and we won't see this type of reduction every year. But this is a direct result of our crews getting out and being more diligent and doing the work. Like I said, they've been doing amazing, and those numbers reflect their work. So 156 fewer times that they had to run out to a call that may or may not have been something, right? Sometimes it's just a maintenance issue.
And let's not be, overzealous on that. We don't want to go out and put out fires by any means, but everything on the prevention side is awesome. But if the fire alarm goes off, smoke detector goes off, still going to be there, still going to respond, still going to do the job.
We're coming, but a lot of it's education out in the public.
It's good
Teaching
stuff.
People how to maintain their systems, how to take care of their detectors, their smoke alarms, to do all of those things. So.
Awesome. Well, let's turn to 2025. We kicked 2025 off with a fire chief recruitment that heads through the end of February to submit for the fire chief / emergency manager for Fitchburg. February 2nd is the due date on there. Just in general, you haven't had a fire chief for a little over 9 months. I was trying to think back, it's about that.
About 9 months. We're really hoping to get the right person in who, has that mix of salesperson and able to effectively communicate our needs to the elected officials and the taxpayers, while also being a good in-house leader, right? And that's a tough combination to come up with. So we're really hoping that through a national search, we end up with the right person in the place. Fitchburg Fire Department is amazing, right? I can say that with certainty because I came from a different fire department, and we're looking for somebody who's very high caliber.
Fantastic. Well, we'll keep you up to date on that recruitment as it goes on if you want to see the process that is laid out at our website at fitchburgwi.gov. Finally, just initiatives coming for 2025. Obviously, we're going to continue with some great inspections, but anything else coming in 2025? We never stopped. When Chief Pulvermacher moved on to his new department, we never let our foot off of the gas pedal. And there is so much work that still needs to be done in terms of just making ourselves better. So training will be a big focus for 2025.
Obviously, the chief's recruitment, we're going to try and set ourselves up and set this new chief up for the best possible outcomes, so that when they walk in the door, they don't have a handful of fires to put out, so to speak. We're going to continue getting out in the public, right? Over the last year, I've become a regular presence here, and you guys have taught me a ton, and it's great to get out to the public. We've done new events. We've changed some events around. We're going to Kids Build Wisconsin. We're going to, we have our open house. We changed that around, right? So we're going to continue to add on to all of those things and continue to try and grow our staff, right? The more firefighters we have, the better we're able to do our job.
Yeah, well, I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and it's been fun to see you at all of the events this year, and yeah, some of the events that you did this year, some newer events, definitely it pays off in a lot of front, but I think keeping people involved in what you're doing and what's going on, it plays a big role in understanding the mission of the fire department.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's awesome. All right, Mark, well, appreciate the time as always. You can check out the website for updates on the fire department, social media as well, and of course, Mark comes in each and every month, maybe kicking and screaming because he's afraid of this guy. No, he doesn't. He's here to help you out. We'll look forward to having you back here real soon.
Thank you for having me.